What is up, YouTubers? Welcome to the video. Thank you very much for tuning in for, well, a little bit of a clickbait video. Yeah, the title of this video says I'm going to be reviewing the iFlight Xing2 7. I am not. And if you follow my channel, you already know that I'm going to review the powertrain of the Xing2 7. These are the iFlight Xing2 2809 motors. And 1250 kV if I'm not mistaken. So again, this is basically the powertrain of the 7.5 inch iFlight Xing2 7 Pro I should add. And review, I'm gonna show you what these motors do on a 7-inch build. Because this review is part of my build series of a cinematic 7-inch quadcopter. Here we go.
You serious?
Alrighty guys, the iFlight Xing2 2809 motors. And disclaimer, these motors were sent to me for free by iFlight. The link in the description won't be an affiliate link, so I'm not making any money here, but I didn't have to pay for the motors myself. Having said that, I'm mostly going to show you what these motors fly like, so that should be completely unbiased. And I don't, well, I do care, but I wouldn't mind if iFlight decides to never ever send me anything again. Right, so yeah, I'm not biased in any way. Having said that, again, these motors do look nice. They are Unibel motors. Right, but they don't look super duper fancy. Some of the iFlight Xing motors do look fancy colors and such, but these look restrained, matte black mostly, and some blue. They do definitely look well made and nice, but restrained. And so what can I tell you about these motors? Yeah, again, they look and feel well made and Unibel, but also hopefully you can see that the bell housing isn't straight, doesn't have straight edges. It's a little bit curved, these edges. That should help in crash resistance, in my humble opinion. However, a 7-inch quadcopter generally isn't a crash copter. Having said that, I have crashed my iFlight DC7 several times, and it's still in tip-top condition. So that DC7 also has a Unibel curved motor, so maybe it does help, right? It has these motors have titanium 5mm shafts and single strand winding and a screw, not a C-clip at the bottom or an E-clip. So that looks pretty nice. Also, I must say that the price of these motors is pretty okay. It's not cheap, but not offensive for this big a motor. These are obviously pretty big motors, right? They come in around 35 euros. Again, that's not cheap, but well, for what you get, it's pretty okay, I think. Okay, so let's actually check out the weight of these motors. I don't really have a reference for that. I generally review motors for 5-inch quadcopters, but let's see the weight anyway. Okie dokie, for future reference then, right? For future reviews of bigger motors, 61 grams. So that is approximately maybe twice the weight of a 5-inch quadcopter motor, right? And with that said, again, the price of approximately 35 euros, that's not twice the price of a 5-inch quadcopter motor, right? You get twice the motor though, 61 grams. And yeah, we'll see what they perform like. Do they perform like twice the 5-inch quadcopter motor? We will see. Alright, so what do I want to know about these Xing2s from iFlight? Are they very efficient? Or are they very powerful? Or maybe both? Right, these are a little bit bigger than your typical 7-inch quadcopter motor. A typical 7-inch quadcopter motor is 2806.5. And again, these are 2809s. So significantly bigger. And as mentioned in my overview of the parts for this project, iFlight sells these motors, or the Xing2 7, as an efficient quadcopter, a long-range quadcopter. So again, are these efficient and are they powerful? So what I'm going to do is put these motors on the quadcopter, on the frame, build the quadcopter, and then we'll compare that setup with a 7-inch quadcopter with 2806.5 motors. Here we go. Alrighty guys, so I got me 2 big quadcopters. I also got me a lot of wind, so I've taken refuge behind this building, but yeah, hopefully you'll be able to hear what I'm saying. So 2 7-inch quadcopters. This is a Rotorama Body 7. I did a build series with this quadcopter a while ago, but we are comparing motors, right? So on your left, this one, this quadcopter has RCN Power Smoogs 2806.5 motor, so a typical 7-inch quadcopter size. And then we have the iFlight Xing2 2809 motors on this Catalyst Machine Works Vanguard 7. And both quadcopters have a GoPro Hero 8 on them, and I don't know the weight. I'll actually put the all-up weight for you on screen. Here is the weight of the Body 7 with the Smoogs 2806.5 motors. Right? All up with battery. And here is the all up weight of this Vanguard 7 with the iFlight Xing2 2809 motors. And I will be flying both of them with these batteries here. These are CNHL 1800 mAh 120C 6S lipos, and both lipos will be the same age, the same cycles, and the internal resistance of the cells is the same, more or less 7 ohm all cells for both packs, right? So what we'll be doing, I won't do an maximum flight time, otherwise you'd be here for I don't know how long. Besides these quadcopters, I haven't built these 7-inch quadcopters for endurance, for long range at all. I want them to be fast and fun also, freestylable and powerful. Is that it? Yeah, and the flight time should be reasonable. I already suspect that this battery works well on the 2806.5 motors, or the smaller motors, and this battery, it won't struggle, but it will be a little bit small for them big old iFlight 2809 motors. Yeah, okay, so I'll do 2 2-minute flights. In both flights I will do 3 punch outs and 3 dives with catches. That's a good way to gauge the power of a setup, right? If you can easily pull out of a dive. And after that I'll tell you what the voltage of these lipos is in level flight. And while flying I'll tell you whether they're fast, if the setup is fast. So let's get a baseline with this Body 7, again with the 2806.5 motors from RCN Power. Here we go. Alright, here we go. No. Alright, here we go. We are up and away with the Body 7 RCN Power 2806.5 motors. And I've already done a couple of test flights here. First of all, there's a lot of wind, and that does affect these quadcopters at least a little bit, the tune that is. Doesn't really matter, it affects both of these quadcopters the same. The propellers are identical. Oh, I didn't mention that, identical propellers. So this Body 7 I've had for a while, so I know exactly what this quadcopter is like. Right, this is a fast quadcopter. This is actually more or less the reason I'm building that perfect cinematic 7-inch quadcopter, and that is hopefully that Catalyst Machine Works with the iFlight motors. However, okay, let's do 1 punch out, catch. Punch out, catch. Pretty easy actually. But I also know, already know I should say, that quadcopter with the iFlight motors is more powerful. Punch out, especially in these punch outs and catching the quadcopter again. It simply requires less throttle to pull out of a dive. Ooh, wobbles. Yeah, so this Body 7, again with the RCN power motors, is a fast quadcopter. It's a lot of fun to fly. It is freestylable, as you can tell, but it's also fast and pretty easy to fly fast in a straight line, even though there might be slight wobbles because of the wind. Maybe, yeah, I will ask CNHL to make me bigger lipos for quadcopters like these. The C rating doesn't really have to be this high actually, just as long as the lipo is bigger. Sorry. Like 2400 maybe? Okay, so that was actually 2.5 minutes, and my voltage is now at 22 volts in forward flight. So not in a hover, but in a relatively speedy forward flight. 22 volts after, well, let's get it down to 3 minutes. Easier to keep track of. Apparently I have more to tell you than I had anticipated. Okay, level flight, 3 minutes, and it's at 21.7 volts. 21.7 volts. So yeah, like I told you, that that quadcopter we'll be flying next is definitely more powerful. But 21.7 volts. I'm suspecting the voltage will be lower at the end of that flight. But we'll see. Okay. Alrighty guys, here we go.
Our motors.
Bank got 7 I should say. With the iFlight Xing2 2809 motors. And it will come as no surprise that these motors feel more powerful in everything you do basically. I'm flying with less throttle, but also the micro adjustments in throttle are smaller. Anyway, let's do a couple of punch outs and catches. Yeah, I'm higher up and it's a lot smoother to catch. This is not a scientific test at all, but punch, I know what I hear and see, of course, and well, that's the only thing I can tell you, of course. Okay, one more. I've already seen red numbers for my voltage. Okay, punch. And we are only 1.5 minutes in. Now from experience, I've flown this quadcopter a couple of times yesterday to test it. I've finished the build 2 days ago. And yeah, I know that, like I told you in the previous flight, that this setup is a little more hungry. So again, I would like a bigger lipo on this quadcopter to extend the flight times a little bit. And I don't even think that this quadcopter will mind the extra weight. Yeah, but anyway, I already have to be careful not to dip the voltage under 21 volts. So yeah, definitely more hungry, but also more powerful, definitely. And okay, so we are, well, almost 2 minutes in. Let's try to hit that 3 minute mark. even though I again have to be very careful. I can't, well, yeah, I can get it up to speed still. In fact, getting it up to speed doesn't actually draw a whole lot more current than just floating around. Okay, we are 3 minutes in. And our voltage is, well, let's speed it up a little bit. Yeah, around 21 volts. Hanging on for dear life. Okay, yeah, so you know what? I'll set it down and then I'll give you my closing thoughts on these motors for a 7-inch build. And I'll tell you what kind of quadcopter or what kind of application these motors would work out well on. Alrighty guys, so the iFlight Xing2 2809 motors, and I've seen a couple of reviews with these, well, with the Chimera 7 Pro, right? And that quadcopter has these motors, and reviewers say very efficient. iFlight also sells that quadcopter as a long-range quadcopter, so at least iFlight thinks that these motors are efficient. Now, were you to use these motors on a 7-inch build like I have, then they are definitely very powerful. Yeah, and you can get, well, you can end up with a very fast setup this way, which is what I wanted, right? I wanted a fast setup for speedy videos. However, efficient, not on a 7-inch quadcopter. And would they then be efficient on a 7.5? Well, a 7.5-inch propeller is more efficient, but still, if I were to build a quadcopter like that, I'd probably take that frame, that 7.5-inch frame, and use 2806.5 motors to have a really efficient setup. Yeah. Is it a lot of fun to fly that Chimera 7 Pro? Probably. Probably. This is a lot of fun. Very powerful quadcopter. This is almost like a 5-inch quadcopter, but then faster. Yeah. And what more can I tell you? Yeah, I will need again a bigger LiPo for this quadcopter. 1800 milliamp hour. No. Yeah, you can get up to 3 minutes flights, and maybe if I'd cruise the quadcopter, sure. But yeah, no, again, for a perfect setup, these LiPos, they are not warm. It's not warm, by the way, so this LiPo did handle the amp draw, but it runs out of steam sooner than you'd want to with a powerful setup like this. So that's my review of these Xing2 motors from iFlight. The 2809, what is it, 1250 kV. That lower kV, I didn't care. I didn't, well, notice. I didn't have to apply a whole lot of throttle, even though the propeller's pitch and such is the same. So yeah, that doesn't really matter, so it seems. But still, great motors, very powerful setup this. So if that's what you want, then good, bigger LiPo. Yeah, and if you're left with questions, hit me up a comment down below. Next video in this series will be my how-to on installing a 4-in-1 ESC. I've done a lengthy video on how to install the 4-in-1 ESC in this perfect 7-inch quadcopter. After that, a shorter video about setting up the flight controller, and probably after that some flight footage, some demonstrations, if you will, of what this perfect cinematic freestyler can do. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.